Hello students. After studying this module, you shall be able to define the term work-related attitudes, know the components of work-related attitudes, define and describe job involvement, define and describe organizational commitment, and identify ways of developing organizational commitment. Birmingham Business Journal conducted a national survey where companies were asked to rank which aspect was most important in a workplace out of options like employee aptitude, hard skills and technical competencies, employee attitude, soft skills, etc. Nearly 60% of the organizations ranked attitude as number one concern. Thus, attitude plays a major role in every organization. Today's organizations have to deal with employees with both positive and negative attitudes. The attitude of employees determines their respective commitment, loyalty, and performance. Therefore, knowledge about work-related attitudes is important. Now let's talk about the definition and the meaning of work-related attitudes. Before understanding what work-related attitudes are, it is necessary to know what attitudes mean. Attitudes are evaluative statements which have a complex underlying reason. In an organization setup, if a person says, "I do not like my co-workers," then the person is expressing an attitude. Attitudes are directed towards an attitude object, which can be a person, an object, or an event. Attitudes, according to Greenberg and Barron, 1977, attitudes are relatively stable clusters of feelings, beliefs, and behavioral predispositions. There are three major components which encompass the attitude of an employee. They are the cognitive component, the evaluative component or the affective component, and the behavioral component. What one believes with respect to the attitude object reflects the cognitive component. For example, saying the incentives I get are less. Thus, this component is a description of or belief in the way things are. Attitudes also encompass the feelings or affect of the employee, which is the evaluative component or the affective component. It reflects how the employee feels. For example, I am sad over how less incentives I get in this organization. The way one believes and feels about an attitude object will determine his or her behavior. Thus, the behavioral component describes how one is predisposed to act. These three components are intertwined to each other. Attitudes are not temporary and tend to persist for a long period of time once they are formed. Work-related attitudes are lasting feelings, beliefs, and behaviors towards different aspects of work, like the work environment, the co-workers, the supervisors, etc. The most commonly assessed work attitudes are job involvement and organizational commitment. We will discuss each one of them one by one. The first is job involvement. The term involvement means to connect closely to something. It is understandable then that job involvement relates to the degree to which an employee is connected to his organization, his work, and other aspects of his job. Job involvement is not merely coming to office every day or working 9 to 5 in your cabin. It is much more. It is the extent to which the employee connects to his or her organizations. Some of the important definitions of job involvement are: job involvement measures the degree to which people identify psychologically with their jobs and consider their perceived performance level important to self-worth. This definition was given by Saleh and Hosek in 1976. Another definition of job involvement, as given by Kanungo in 1982, says, job involvement refers to the individual's perception or belief that he is identified with his or her job. Job involvement is the degree to which a person identifies psychologically with his or her work or the importance of work in his or her total self-image. This definition was given by Ludhal and Keshner in 1965. It can be inferred from these definitions that has been mentioned that the employees who have a high level of job involvement will strongly identify with their jobs and show a lot of concern towards their work. All managers strive to increase the job involvement of their workers, as an increase in the job involvement of the employees leads to better performance. This is likely to aid in furthering the larger goal of the organization. For example, Sita has a negative work attitude and feels that she is being paid lesser than Rahul. Thus, this can affect her job involvement and she may feel less attached to her job, leading to lower standard of performance. According to Saleh and Hosek in 1976, a person is involved in his or her job when 4 basic criteria are met. First, work to him or her is closer to central life interest. Second, he or she actively participates in his or her job. Third, he or she perceives performance as consistent with his or her self-concept. And fourth, he or she perceives performance as central to his or her self-esteem. Whenever these 4 definitions are satisfied, the individual will be involved in his or her own job. Now, talking about the theoretical models for understanding job involvement. The relationship between job involvement and its precursors and outcome variables can be understood with the help of various theoretical models. First is the expectancy theory. Expectancy theory was given by Victor Vroom in 1964. It suggests that managers should make good use of the expectancies that each employee has to motivate them. According to the theory, individuals' actions are determined by the possible expected rewards they will receive. The job involvement for an employee is determined by the expectancy level he or she may have, which further results in incentives for action. The results of this interaction are displayed in the figure 1. As can be seen from figure 1 that if expectations are lower than the incentives provided by the organization, the resulting job involvement will increase. On the other hand, when expectations are higher than the incentives that organization provides, then job involvement will reduce. The second theory is integrated theory model. For Rabinowitz and Hall, 1977, job involvement is related to 3 classes of working variables. First is the dispositional approach held by the individual. Second, the situational determined approach held. The third, the influence of the interaction between these approaches. In this model, no single variable shows a stronger relationship to job involvement. Both dispositional and situational variables are equally important in explaining job involvement of an employee. The integrated theory model of job involvement is depicted in figure 2. In the dispositional approach, job involvement is viewed as dependent on the personality of every individual. The varied characteristics like employee's age, gender, job demands, etc. influence the different work-related attitudes. Job involvement is also one such work attitude. Every employee has a certain desire towards his or her work and attaches a value to it. And these desire and value will either drive them to work harder or hamper their job involvement, as given by Sekharin and Maude in 1981. In the situation-determined approach, job involvement can be viewed as the personal attitude that the employee has towards the particular job. It may be affected by various factors like leadership style, decision-making opportunities, social environment of the organization, job features, and other conditional influences. The third class of variables concerns with the interaction between the first two and is called the dispositional situation. In this approach, both the personal characteristics and the environment are used to explain employees' personal work-related attitudes and behaviors. A high job involvement will arise when both the personal characteristics and the situation reach resemblance. The next is motivational approach. The motivational approach was given by Kanungo in 1979. It is based on the basic concept that job involvement is affected by the potential that the employee has for personal socialization and the likelihood that the work-related environment can meet with the personal demand. Kanungo hypothesizes the perceptions that employees have regarding the extent to which the job environment satisfies their needs has a close influence on their job involvement. According to Kanungo, individuals believe that the job will help them satisfy their important future needs, influences their involvement with their jobs. Job involvement thus depends on the employee's extrinsic and intrinsic needs as well as their perceptions of the extent to which their needs can be satisfied. Next is the causality theory model. The causality theory of job involvement proposed by Brown 1996 includes antecedents like personality variables, concept of work ethics, the pivotal mediator role of job involvement and its consequences such as the organizational commitment. This model also depicts the relationship between job involvement and organizational commitment. The model also highlights the significance of work ethics in job involvement. The next is the multidimensional model of job involvement. According to multidimensional model of Yoshimura 1996, job involvement is not unidimensional concept but consists of 3 dimensions. They are emotional job involvement, cognitive job involvement and behavioral job involvement. Emotional job involvement indicates how strongly the worker feels about his or her job. Cognitive job involvement indicates how strongly the worker wants to participate in decision-making processes related to his or her job and how important the job is in his or her life. And behavioral job involvement indicates how often the worker puts extra efforts or takes initiatives in improving and thinking about his or her job even after leaving the office. The figure below depicts this model. Yoshimura 1996 further in his multidimensional model of job involvement classified the antecedents of job involvement into 3 categories, namely individual personality variables, organizational variables and non-organizational variables. Individual personality characteristics which influence job involvement fall in the individual variable. These can be locus of control, growth needs, socialization, job experience, etc. Organizational variables are those that are work-related variables such as job type, job satisfaction, human resource management, etc. And non-organizational involvement and family involvement comprise the non-organizational variables. Now coming to the next topic, which is the organizational commitment. First, let's start with the definition and the meaning of organizational commitment. Organizational commitment is the aspect of work-related attitudes which focuses on the organization as an attitude object. It refers to the people's attitude towards their organization. It is concerned with the extent to which employees are involved in their organization and wish to stay in their organization. It is thus the workers' feelings and attitudes about the entire work organization. According to Porter et al. 1974, organizational commitment is an attachment to the organization characterized by an intention to remain in it, an identification with the values and goals of the organization, and a willingness to exert extra effort on its behalf. Bateman and Stresser in 1984 defined organizational commitment as the multidimensional in nature, involving an employee's loyalty to the organization, willingness to exert effort on behalf of the organization, degree of goal and value congruency with the organization, and desire to maintain membership. Another definition given by Sheldon in 1971, organizational commitment is a positive evaluation of the organization and the organizational goals. Now, coming to the components of organizational commitment, there are three major components of organizational commitment which has been discussed by Porter et al. 1974. They are: first, a strong belief in and acceptance of the organization's goal. Second, a willingness to exert considerable effort on behalf of the organization. And third, a definite desire to maintain organizational membership. There are three distinct forms of organizational commitment as given by Mayer and Allen 1991 and Dunham et al. 1994. They are continuance commitment, affective commitment, and normative commitment. Continuance commitment refers to how willing the employee is to remain with the organization he is working in because of the investment employees have made in the organization in terms of non-transferable investments. These can include social relationships or friendships with the co-workers, retirement plans, etc. The longer an individual works in the organization, higher will be his or her continuance commitment. Mayer and Allen 1997 also mentioned that the employees who share a high continuance commitment with their employer often make it very difficult for the employee to leave the organizations. For example, Mr. Rahul may be high in continuance commitment towards his organization because he maintains a close friendship with his fellow workers. The next is the affective commitment. Affective commitment is the emotional value one attaches to his or her job. It has been defined by various authors as the emotional attachment, identification, and involvement that an employee has with its organization and the goals. Porter et al. 1974 further characterized affective commitment by three factors: belief in and acceptance of the organization's goals and values. Second, a willingness to focus effort on helping the organization achieve its goals. And third, a desire to maintain organizational membership. Mayer and Allen 1997 say that employees retain membership out of choice, and this is their commitment they have towards their organization. For example, Asha may be affectively committed to her organization due to their agenda to use only environment-friendly products for production. And the last is the normative commitment. Normative commitment is the sense of obligation employee has towards his or her organization or workplace. According to Weiner 1982, normative commitment is a generalized value of loyalty and duty. Mayer and Allen defined it as a feeling of obligation. Normative commitment can be influenced by other commitments such as marriage, family, religion, etc. Therefore, when it comes to one's commitment to their workplace, they often feel like having a moral obligation to the organization, as given by Weiner in 1982. For example, Sita may not leave her workplace during a turbulent period because she has been working for it from last 20 years. Now, coming to the next topic is need for organizational commitment. Review of studies show that employee attendance is the most positively related outcome to effective commitment. A high correlation was determined between attendance of workers and employee commitment in a study by Steers in 1997. Gallatly, 1995, found that continuance commitment was related with employee absenteeism. Additionally, a study of a group of insurance agents by Blow and Wall, 1987, revealed that employees with higher levels of commitment had lower levels of absenteeism and turnover. There is thus a necessity that the organizations strive for organizational commitment among their employees. According to Bateman and Stresser, 1984, the reasons for studying organizational commitment are related to the employee behaviors and performance effectiveness. Second, attitudinal, affective and cognitive constructs such as job satisfaction. Third, characteristics of the employee's job and role such as responsibility. And fourth, personal characteristics of the employee such as age, job tenure, etc. Additionally, committed employees are less likely to withdraw. The more an employee is committed to organization he or she is working in, he is more unlikely to withdraw or resign or be absent. Being committed to job makes people more likely to show up for work on time and whenever needed. Next is, committed employees are more willing to make extra efforts and sacrifices for their organizations. Except for staying in the organizations for the long run, highly committed employees also show more willingness to make extra efforts and sacrifices when needed. Now, coming to the next topic is ways to develop organizational commitment. Managers cannot have full control on all the external variables influencing the employees' attitudes. They do strive to enhance the chances of making an employee stay with the organization, that is, to enhance effective commitment. This can be done through various ways. First, enriching jobs. Job enrichment is a type of job redesign which involves giving the employees a high amount of control over their work and its related aspects. People tend to be highly committed to their workplace when they can exercise a control over the ways in which they do their work and are recognized for making important contributions to the same. Second is training and development. Organizational commitment can be increased by giving the employees proper training and development. Organizational commitment is the employee's acceptance, involvement and dedication towards achieving organizational goals. Training and development provide employees a sense of pride in organizational achievements, believe in the goals, committed to their organizations and values of the organization, and therefore exhibit higher levels of performance. Third, align the interest of the employee and the company. Commitment is high in the employees who realize that doing something good for the company will also benefit them. Many companies adopt profit-sharing plans where employees are entitled to receive a portion of the company's profits. Such plans, if administered fairly, are seen as major influences on the organizational commitment of the employees. Fourth, recruitment and selection of new employees whose values are in line with that of the organization. Recruitment of new employees provides opportunities to find people whose values match with the values of the organizations. Moreover, the process of recruitment itself is an important influence. This means that The more a company works towards attracting and luring individuals to their company, the more the individual is likely to return the energy and show higher commitment. New employees not only bring fresh energy into the organizational working, but those who share the same values and beliefs as that of the organization show a higher commitment. Summary: work-related attitudes refer to the attitudes that employees have towards their work, organization, and other related aspects. These attitudes are directed towards an attitude object. Attitudes comprise of three major components: cognitive, behavioral, and evaluative or affective. Job involvement refers to the psychological identification of the individual with his or her job. It is the extent to which employees see their jobs as central to their self-concept. And lastly, organizational commitment is the extent to which an employee identifies with his or her organization and wishes to remain its part.